Hey Kermit, check out this picture I made.
Shut up, you idiot!
Hello everybody, welcome back to ACR, and for new viewers, ACR stands for Action Comedy Review. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Tropic Thunder, a movie from 2008, starring Jack Black, Ben Stiller, and Robert Downey Jr. The director of this movie was actually Ben Stiller, so that's fun. Now, this movie made impressive numbers in the box office. It made over $195.7 million. And its budget was $92 million, so I think you can see the difference there. This movie is rated R, so be warned.
Scorcher 6. Global meltdown.
Now we get introduced to our characters through movie trailers and an ad. Our characters are Kirk Lazarus, Tug Speedman, Jeff Portnoy, and Al Pacino. And no, it is not Al Pacino. It is Al Pacino. They're two different people. When I first saw the ad and the trailer for Scorcher, I thought they were like a part of the disc, and it was advertising stuff, and I was like, maybe I can just skip through this part. But when I found the name of Scorcher's actor, which was Tug Speedman, I knew it was a part of the film. Let me just say, the trailer for Fatties was awful. I actually hated that. So after that, there's a little background information segment for Tropic Thunder, the movie. It says that there was an attempt from a war where soldiers tried to save Sergeant Four-Leaf Tabak, and 10 men were sent, 4 survived, 3 wrote books, and only 2 were published. And of those 2, 1 got a movie deal, and how this is the story of the man who attempted to make this movie.
That is fine.
So the scene starts out in a war where Kirk Lazarus is telling the chopper to come down, and they're fighting a bunch of enemies. Some of these parts I really can't show on YouTube because it'll probably get the video taken down. So just take my word for it, the practical effects are really good. Kirk tells Jeff Portnoy to help Kevin Sadusky with the other enemies, but then Kevin gets his stomach cut open and his guts are everywhere. So Jeff takes him back, along with Al Pacino's character. As everyone's freaking out and yelling at each other, Kevin points out that Four-Leaf is running towards them, and he's being chased by enemies. He gets shot and falls down, but Jeff tells him to get right back up. He does so, runs some more, then Kirk's telling him he's gotta survive, but then he falls again. Kirk runs towards Four-Leaf, who's played by Tug Speedman. Kirk's about to make it back with him, but an enemy throws an explosive and it blows up, but it knocks down Kirk and Tug. So hearing Jack Black swear in this movie is a little jarring, because to my recollection, I don't remember hearing him swear before.
Oh yeah, Jack Black's a drug addict in this movie.
Kermit, shut up! We haven't gone to that part yet! You're spoiling the movie! After the explosion, Kirk runs to Tug, and Tug says that he's always thought of him as a brother, after putting up his hands that were blown off. So then Kirk starts crying, but it appears Tug can't. In the background, we can see Jeff slowly come down from the helicopter, and he's swinging and shooting everywhere. I don't know why, but I thought that was really funny. As Tug's still trying to cry, Kirk is drooling all over him, and Tug looks over at the camera, and the director has a really confused and disgusted look on his face. Tug asks if they can cut, but the director says no, because the jets that are gonna drop bombs are almost there. They try the scene once more, but it doesn't go well again, and all hell just breaks loose on the set. As the director's freaking out, the pyrotechnic thing, that's the signal to set off the explosives, and the jets fly by, then a huge explosion happens, and that's on the news later on.
Hit that director in the face. Really hard.
Hollywood Access show interrupts and talks about the actors and how the movie's probably going to be a failure. Turns out Jeff was arrested for possession of drugs, and Kirk went through a skin pigmentation change to really get into the role. The report catches Tug's eye, and the segment's talking about him and how he's a washed-up actor now. He gets mad at this, but then he gets a call from his producer, Rick. Rick tells him that he needs to push his game a little, show him that he's the actor he always was. Then he asks about his TiVo, but turns out it never got set up for Tug. Ooh. Rick gets mad, and then he asks Tug about the adoption plan, and Tug says, you know, it's a hard choice. I think the good ones are all gone now.
But that's just like that time I adopted an entire orphanage, and then they all revolted against me and stole all my money. Oh, good times.
Then it goes to the director, who's having a meeting with Les, the producer. Les tells him that the budget for the movie's running low, and that if he can't keep the actors in check, he's gonna have to cancel the movie. Right after that, it goes into the week-in party, where the director's trying to get all the actors together for a cast meeting. The attempt fails because all the actors are partying and such, but Tug, he's trying to pep everybody up and bring everyone together. The director just gives up, grabs some beer, then walks to the beach where he meets up with Four Leaf. Four Leaf in his campsite brings up a plan that he's been thinking of to actually get this movie to work. Basically, the plan is to put the actors in a real situation where it seems like they're actually in this setting, so they'll get real reactions. The director agrees to this, and they head out the next day.
Everybody, Eminem!
They reach the location that they need to film at, and the director tells them what's what. Then he gives Tug a map and some directions on what they need for the scenes, right after collecting all of their phones and then destroying them. The director gets them all pepped up and ready to go and ready to get this film done with. Then he steps on a landmine. They all think this is a part of the plan to get them to show their emotions. But then real enemies hear the explosion and then all the ruckus they're making about it. Kirk points out that the director's actually dead, and then the enemies start shooting them. They fire back, thinking this is still a part of the whole charade. The pyrotechnic and Four Leaf blow up some explosives, thinking that the plan's actually going well, and then the enemies escape. They all celebrate that their take was a success, and Kirk is still skeptical about what just happened. Then they head into the forest. Four Leaf and the pyrotechnic decide to go down there and see what's going on with the director, because he's not responding. While they're walking through the forest, Jeff goes off to do some drugs, and then Kevin interrupts him, and he says he was just eating jelly beans.
Nothing, man. It's jelly. I'm eating jelly beans.
Oh, I love jelly beans. Can I please?
No, you can't have any jelly beans.
Tension rises between Kirk and Tug. The pyrotechnic and Four Leaf figure out that the director exploded. Then they get kidnapped, and right before they get kidnapped, the pyrotechnic figures out that Four Leaf never actually got his hands blown off in war. Jeff, who thinks he has a chance to get away with his hidden drug addiction, decides to take him out and try to do him, but they get taken away by a bat that flies by and he chases after it. Kirk decides to go over to Kevin and talk to him about how the director is actually dead and how those enemies were real. He also talks to him about how Kevin went to a camp and knows how to read maps. Right after he's done talking to him, Tug decides to go over to him and tells him how he thinks that Kirk's trying to ruin the movie. Kevin decides to ask if he can take a look at the map, but Tug says no. Pyrotechnic and Four Leaf get taken to the enemy's camp. Kirk tricks Tug into giving him the map, and he reveals that they've been going the wrong way the whole time. Tug goes off by himself, and the others go the correct way. As they're going through the forest, it becomes night, and Tug gets caught in the rain at his makeshift camp. In his makeshift little hut, he starts watching Star Trek on his iPod, and he notices something rustling in the bushes. Him and the thing in the bushes start to fight, and Tug kills it. Then it turns out it was a panda the whole time. Pandas are his favorite animal, and he gets really upset about it. It goes back to the pyrotechnic and Four Leaf, and they're tied together on like this post in the enemy's camp. Four Leaf reveals that he was a trash man and worked for the Coast Guard.
I was one of those.
Pablo, shut up! And he actually wrote the book as a tribute. Tug now has a jungle outfit where he's wearing the head of the panda as a hat, and he gets a call from Rick on his satellite phone that he hid from the director before the phones got destroyed. Tug says he killed it, and Rick thinks that he killed a hooker. Tug tells him it was a panda, and Rick thinks it's all good now. Then he asks about the TiVo and if it ever got put in, and Tug responded with, not to his knowledge. So then Rick gets really mad and decides to head over to Les's office to talk to him about it. And while he's getting mad, Tug actually gets knocked out by an enemy. It goes back to the other actors, and Jeff's freaking out about the bat that bit him and how he's going through a withdrawal. Then he tries to drink some dirty pond water. Then Alpa points out how racist Kirk's being playing a black man, and then he proceeds to make fun of him. This is all happening while Jeff's trying to fight a yak.
I'm going to call you Half Squad.
We go back to Tug where he's at the enemy camp and still thinks this is a whole part of the movie. He then gets interrogated by one of the enemies, but then he kicks him and then he apologizes thinking he was still an actor. It goes back to the other actors and they figure out that Tug was kidnapped and that this is a drug trafficking camp. And Tug's being tortured there. Tug's then taken to the leader, who turns out to be a kid, and then he gets beaten up by him, and Tug starts stuttering like his character Simple Jack, a mentally impaired adult from a movie he played. It turns out that Simple Jack is the only form of media that they can watch in this country. They realize that they can put him up for a higher ransom from this. It cuts to Rick where he's confronting Les about the TiVo. And then he gets a call from Tug's phone. The drug lords tell them that they have Tug and they want money for him. And then Les proceeds to cuss them out and hangs up the phone and tells his secretaries to figure out who the Flaming Dragon is and to do a whole synopsis and report about them. The drug lords proceed to make Tug perform the entirety of Simple Jack for them for a form of entertainment. Now back to the other actors while they're trying to formulate a plan to help Tug get out. Kevin brings up a plan from the original Tropic Thunder book, and he says that that's a way they can save him. But it turns out the others never read the script or the book.
Just like how you never follow your script that you take hours to make.
It goes back to Rick and Les. Les's team's working on reports on the Flaming Dragon. The Flaming Dragon tried to strike a deal with Les and Rick, but Les cusses him out again, and he reveals that he knows there's no way out of this. He also reveals his plan to make a lot of money off of Tug's death. He tries to get Rick to betray his friend for the private jet and all the riches by doing a little dance for him. It goes back to Tug and he's performing Simple Jack for the enemies. The other actors are watching from afar to make sure that he's still okay and that this plan can still go through. Jeff tells Kevin that he needs to stay back because of his drug addiction, and if he finds all the drugs, he's literally going to die because he's going to take every single last ounce of it. Goes back to Tug and he's cleaning off his makeup, and a little kid comes in and he decides to give him a gift because he respects him. Tug decides to name him Half Squat. Then it goes back to Rick and he's contemplating about whether he should choose his friend or the riches. Then it goes right back to the actors and they're admiring the stars before their whole plan's gonna go through. And also Jeff's tied to a tree, so that's fun.
Oh, just like how you made me watch this disaster.
Jeff tries to bargain with them to get him down from the tree, but the others ignore him, and they bond a little bit and learn more about each other. And also, this movie could not be made today with some of the jokes they make.
Here's my mother.
The next day, it cuts to Kirk, the yak, and Jeff strapped onto the back of the yak. Kirk reveals that he can speak Mandarin Chinese. Kevin and Alpa are going through the river to try to get to the other side where the jail cells are. And while they're doing that, Kirk's gonna try to distract the enemies with the offering of Jeff on the yak. This offering captures the attention of the Flaming Dragon's leader. Kevin and Alpa actually get there, but they need the extra 5 minutes, so Kirk gives them the extra 5 minutes to actually get to the cells. Alpa unties Four-Leaf and the pyrotechnic, and they decide to rig the bridge with explosives so they'll have an easier time escaping. Kirk couldn't keep his story straight with the leader, so he tries his best but ends up failing, and then he does this.
I'm a lead farmer, mother.
Alpa Kevin and Jeff all start shooting at the enemies, and then Jeff kidnaps the leader and asks him where the drugs are, and he takes him with him. Kirk goes with Kevin to find Tug, while Alpa keeps the enemies in check on the ground with guns, and the pyrotechnic and Four Leaf grab the explosives to rig up to the bridge. And then Kirk finds Tug, but it turns out that Tug doesn't want to go back. The leader of the Flaming Dragon decides to start fighting Jeff because Jeff's trying to put on a dress because he's in underwear. The other enemies get back up and they start shooting at Alpa, and then Jeff starts fighting the leader. Then he knocks him out and finds all the drugs. The pyrotechnic then uses a bomb slingshot to help Alpa. And then Jeff's about to indulge in all the heroin he found, and then Kevin stops him. Right after Kevin stops him, two enemies appear, and then Jeff takes two fistfuls of them and then just puts it in the enemies' faces and knocks them out after farting.
Wanna run that by me again?
The pyrotechnic then sets up all the explosives on the bridge, while Four Leaf is killing a bunch of enemies with a flamethrower. Kirk gives up on trying to get Tug to come back with them and finally breaks character. Kevin then gets Kirk back to his senses, and then Alpa tries doing that with Tug, but it fails, and then they just give up and decide to take him with them. Steal a truck and they all hop into it. As they're driving away, the leader shoots a bazooka at them, and it blows up the back of it, and Tug finally comes to his senses and decides to help everyone get back to the chopper. Tug thinks he can get the enemies to change, so he goes back to try to do it, but then he fails, and he comes running back and half squats, stabbing him in the back literally, and then he decides to chuck him off the bridge while he's running.
Heck is wrong with this movie?
Kermit, I'm about to chuck you off of a bridge! Four Leaf blows up the bridge with the detonator, and Tug flies away from the bridge. Kevin points at Tug getting back up, and Kirk decides to go run to him to help him up. You know, just kind of like the beginning of the movie. They talk to each other, and Tug tells him that he's always thought of him as a brother, and Tug finally cries. They hop back into the chopper, and they take off, but then Rick comes out of nowhere, and he's finally got the TiVo for him. The leader's about to shoot the chopper with a bazooka, and Rick throws the TiVo up to Tug, and the kid shoots it. Then they actually get away. Then Rick runs back into the forest.
Yes. Tug Speedman.
Bam, they're at the Oscars. Tug gets an Oscar for Tropic Thunder, and his career's finally saved. Everyone's happy, and cuts back to Les and his assistant watching the Oscars, and then he tells them that they finally saved his career, and then the assistant decides to go back home. Les then gets up and starts dancing and playing music while the credits are rolling and some footage from the movie's playing, and then it shows Rick and his son on the new private jet that he has. Well, that's it for Tropic Thunder. I think I'll give it 8.5 TiVos out of 10. Unlike Kung Pao and Hot Shots, this was more of a story-driven movie. I thought it was great. Sure, not a lot of the jokes landed, but I mean, nothing's perfect. There's bound to be a bland joke in there. This movie could really not be made today. There's a lot of offensive jokes in it, but this is more for people that are less easily offended than others. So if you're easily offended, I wouldn't recommend this movie to you, but if you're the opposite, I'd recommend it to you, because maybe you'll find the jokes funny, and maybe you'll get a good laugh or two out of the movie. Now, for the story, I actually thought it was pretty good. The comedy was good too, for the most part, but I think the part that really falls short is that it was really trying to make something really great, but also just a joke out of it. But that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me what you think of this video. Share to your friends. That will really help out the channel. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And you can catch me here, here, and here for all new updates and maybe some behind the scenes. But anyway, look forward to my next review, Robin Hood Men in Tights. See you later, everyone. Have a good one.